Welcome to Fractured Chaos.
You ever think you're in control? Playing the game? Making all the moves? Yeah, that was me 3 months ago. Let me tell you how karma kicked my door in. Before I get into this mess of a story, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. And if you want to support your girl through this trauma, smash that like button. Trust me, after hearing what I've been through, I'm gonna need all the support I can get. I was with Darius for 3 years. 3 years of comfortable, predictable, responsible love. The man was a dentist who ironed his jeans and had a color-coded spreadsheet for our future. Year 4, engagement. Year 5, wedding and house purchase. Year 6, begin procreation procedures. I'm quoting directly from the Darius life plan, y'all. There I was, 29 years old, in a perfectly healthy relationship, complaining about stability. I just need some excitement. I groaned to my friends over brunch, drowning my sorrows in mimosas. Something unpredictable, a surprise. Be careful what you wish for, my friend Tasha warned. The universe has a sixth sense of humor. 3 hours and 4 mimosas later, I stumbled into a record store downtown and directly onto someone's foot. I turned around, apology ready, and found myself staring at what can only be described as trouble wrapped in a 6-foot package of bad decisions. "Watch it," he said, but with a smile that made it sound like the opposite of an accusation. "You watch it," I replied brilliantly, the mimosas making me think I was being flirtatious instead of childish. "You're standing on my foot." I looked down. I was indeed still standing on his very expensive-looking sneaker. "I like your shoes," I said, still not moving. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I met Marcus. In a record store, drunk at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, standing on his foot like it was totally normal human flirting behavior. When he asked for my number, there was a moment, one singular, fleeting moment, where an image of Darius flashed in my mind. Darius, who was probably at home right now, meal prepping our lunches for the week. I gave Marcus my number anyway. It started innocent enough. A few texts, some late-night calls when Darius was asleep, then coffee that turned into drinks that turned into, "My place is just around the corner." The first time I cheated on Darius, I cried in the shower afterward. By the 5th time, I was picking up dessert for Darius on my way home from Marcus's apartment like some kind of sociopathic multitasker. The thing about cheating is, it's exhausting. The mental gymnastics required to keep your stories straight is an Olympic-level sport. "Where were you?" Darius would ask, not because he was suspicious, but because he was genuinely interested in my day. "Book club ran late," I'd say, conveniently forgetting that I'd used the book club excuse 3 days ago. Or my personal favorite, I was helping Tasha with a crisis. Tasha, unbeknownst to her, had experienced more crises in the 3 months I was seeing Marcus than most people have in a lifetime. "Another crisis?" Darius would ask. Sweet, concerned Darius. "Should we have her over for dinner? She seems like she's going through a lot." The worst part was, I was actually having fun with Marcus. Not just the sneaking around, but Marcus himself was intoxicating. He was spontaneous in a way that made living in the moment seem like an actual lifestyle choice rather than an Instagram caption. One night he called me at 11 p.m. "Get dressed, I'm outside." Darius was working late at the clinic. A dental emergency, he'd said. "What? Now? Where are we going?" "Does it matter?" And the crazy thing is, it didn't. I threw on clothes, snuck out of my own apartment like a teenager, and ended up at an underground jazz club. We danced until 3 a.m., drank something that tasted like liquid gold and bad decisions, and I made it home just 30 minutes before Darius. When Darius came in, exhausted after reconstructing some poor athlete's smile, I pretended to be waking up, stretching like I'd been asleep for hours. "Rough night?" I asked, trying to sound sleepy instead of guilty. "You have no idea," he said, kissing my forehead. But I saved his smile. That's what matters. The guilt hit me then, a wave of it. Darius was out there literally piecing people back together while I was out there tearing us apart. But that guilt didn't stop me from seeing Marcus the next day, or the day after that. This went on for months. Me, living two completely different lives, like some kind of relationship double agent. It was a Tuesday when I decided to end things with Marcus. Not because I'd had some moral epiphany, though the guilt was starting to eat at me, but because Darius had asked me to go ring shopping just to look. "We need to talk," I said as soon as Marcus opened his apartment door, using the universal opener for uncomfortable conversations. Marcus smirked. He was always smirking, like he knew something you didn't. "You're breaking up with me," he said, not even a question. "Come on in. At least let me make you a drink for the road." I followed him into his apartment, a loft downtown with exposed brick and pipes. "Darius finally proposing?" he asked, leaning against his kitchen counter with that same damn smirk. I nearly choked on my drink. "How did you—" "Lucky guess," he said, but something in the way he said it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "You've got that I've just realized actions have consequences look." "How much do you actually know about me, Marcus?" He shrugged. "Enough." "What does that mean?" "It means I know your boyfriend's name is Darius. I know he's a dentist with his own practice on the east side. I know you've been together for 3 years and that you live together in that apartment complex with the rooftop garden that no one actually uses." My blood ran cold. "Have you been stalking me?" Marcus laughed, but it wasn't the warm laugh from the record store. This was something else, something calculated. "Don't flatter yourself, Jada. Information isn't that hard to come by these days." As I reached for the doorknob to leave, he called after me. "Jada, tell Darius I said hello." I left without another word, my heart pounding like I'd just narrowly escaped something dangerous. That night, I crawled into bed next to Darius, who was fast asleep, and decided, no more Marcus, no more lies. I would be better for Darius. For about 2 weeks, I stuck to that decision. I ignored Marcus's texts, declined his calls, and invested myself fully in my relationship with Darius. We went ring shopping. We toured neighborhoods where we might want to buy a house. I really thought I'd gotten away with it. That my brief detour into infidelity land would remain my shameful secret forever. But then, the universe decided to cash the check my karma had written. It started small. Darius began working late more often. His phone, which used to sit face up on any surface like he had nothing to hide, was suddenly always face down or in his pocket. He started dressing differently too. New cologne, designer stubble when he'd always been meticulously clean-shaven. Then came the night when he didn't come home at all. The next morning, Darius came home looking different. Not disheveled or guilty, but almost glowing. "Morning," he said, way too cheerfully for someone who supposedly spent the night counting dental floss. That's when I saw it. His phone, abandoned on the kitchen counter. Face up, like old times. And a notification from a name that made my blood freeze. Marcus. I lunged for the phone so fast I knocked over my coffee mug. With trembling fingers, I swiped open the message. "Last night was wild. Same time on Thursday?" I stared at the screen, trying to make the words rearrange themselves into something that made sense. My thoughts were interrupted by another text. "Also, I think I left my watch at your place. The expensive one you got me." There was no mistaking it now. This wasn't some work Marcus. This was my Marcus. Except apparently, he wasn't mine anymore. I heard the shower shut off and quickly placed the phone back exactly as I'd found it, my mind racing. That Thursday, I told Darius I was having dinner with Tasha, and instead parked across the street from his clinic waiting. At exactly 8:30 p.m., Darius locked up and walked to his car. I followed at a distance, feeling like the star of some low-budget thriller. He drove to a part of town I rarely visited, finally pulling up to a restaurant I'd never heard of. I parked nearby, slouched in my seat like the world's most obvious stalker. And then I saw him. Marcus, standing outside the restaurant, looking even better than I remembered. When he spotted Darius, his face lit up in a way it never had for me. They embraced, and not in a hey buddy kind of way. This was intimate, familiar. I watched, mouth literally hanging open, as they walked into the restaurant together, Darius's hand resting on the small of Marcus's back like it belonged there. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, trying to process what I'd just seen. The next day, I confronted Darius. "I need to talk to you about something," I said as he walked in from work. "Can it wait? I'm exhausted," he said, not meeting my eyes. "It's about Marcus." The name hung in the air between us like a live grenade. Darius froze, then slowly turned to face me. "I saw his text on your phone," I admitted. Darius didn't react the way I expected. There was no denial, no outrage at my invasion of privacy. Instead, he sighed, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out," he said, sounding almost relieved. "Figure what out?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Marcus and I are seeing each other." Even though I'd suspected, hearing it confirmed made my knees weak. I sank onto the couch. "But how? When?" Darius sat across from me, maintaining a careful distance. "It started about 3 months ago." 3 months, right around the time I ended things with Marcus. "Did you know?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "About me and him?" Something flickered across Darius's face. Not surprise, but confirmation. "I knew," he said simply. "How?" "He told me the first time we met." My mind was spinning. "The first time you met? You knew Marcus before all this?" "Not exactly." "Then what exactly?" He took a deep breath. "Marcus approached me at my clinic. He made an appointment, came in, and told me everything. I felt like I was going to be sick." "Everything?" "About you two, how you met, how long it had been going on." The room seemed to tilt sideways. "And you, what, decided to date him as revenge?" Darius actually laughed at that, a short, humorless sound. "It wasn't about revenge, Jada. At least, not at first." "Then what was it about? Curiosity, maybe?" "He came to me, told me my girlfriend was cheating on me with him, and instead of being angry, I was intrigued." "Intrigued," I repeated dumbly. "By him, by what you saw in him. I wanted to understand why you'd risk everything we had." "So you, what, started hanging out with him?" "At first, yeah. I thought I could learn something, figure out what he had that I didn't." "And then?" Darius looked directly at me for the first time since the conversation began. "And then I realized what you already knew. Marcus is compelling." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My boyfriend hadn't just found out I was cheating. He'd befriended the guy I was cheating with, and then fallen for him? "Are you gay?" I blurted out, immediately regretting the question. "No," Darius said calmly. "I'm not gay. I'm not straight either. I'm figuring things out." "With Marcus?" "With Marcus," he confirmed. We sat in silence for what felt like an eternity, the weight of secrets and betrayals hanging between us like a physical presence. "Did Marcus pursue me to get to you?" The question had been gnawing at me. Darius looked genuinely surprised. "No, I don't think so. From what he told me, meeting you was coincidence. He didn't know about me until later." As I was leaving to stay at Tasha's for the night, another question bubbled up. "Are you in love with him?" Darius hesitated, and in that hesitation, I had my answer. "I don't know what I am right now," he finally said. "But I care about him, more than I expected to." I nodded, fighting back tears. I did too. I ended up staying at Tasha's for a week. She listened to my story with wide eyes and an impressive collection of wine bottles. "Let me get this straight," she said when I finished. "You cheated on Darius with Marcus. Then Darius and Marcus started sleeping together, and now you're all just, what? In some weird love triangle?" "More like a love wreckage," I muttered into my wine glass. After a week of wine and wallowing, I returned to the apartment, half expecting to find Marcus moved in and my stuff in boxes. Instead, I found Darius alone, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," he said as soon as I walked in. "About everything." We spent the entire night talking. Really talking, in a way we probably should have done years ago. I was bored. I admitted. Not with you exactly, but with how predictable everything was. And I was afraid of losing you, Darius countered. So I tried to plan everything, make everything perfect, because I thought that's what would keep you happy. And then came Marcus. And then came Marcus, he echoed. 3 days later, I found myself sitting in our living room across from both Darius and Marcus, feeling like I was about to attend the world's most awkward job interview. So, I said, breaking the silence that had descended as soon as we all sat down. This is weird, Marcus snorted. Understatement of the century. We talked for hours, peeling back layers of our relationships, examining the mess we'd all made. So where does this leave us? I finally asked, emotionally drained but needing some kind of resolution. I need time, I said, to process all of this, to figure out what I want. They both nodded, understanding. That night, lying in bed next to Darius, though with more space between us than ever before, I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. What's funny? Darius murmured, half asleep. Just thinking about how I thought I was so in control, playing the game, making the rules. And all along, the universe was just setting me up for the most spectacular plot twist. The universe has a sick sense of humor, he agreed. Tasha said the same thing months ago. I should have listened. 6 months later, and our lives had transformed into something none of us could have predicted. After weeks of conversations, tears, and more than a few slammed doors, we'd reached an understanding of sorts. Darius and I were still together, but in an open relationship. Marcus was seeing both of us, separately and occasionally together for what we jokingly called family dinner. It wasn't conventional, it definitely wasn't easy, but strangely it worked. One Saturday morning, I was sitting on my balcony enjoying coffee when my phone dinged with a group text from Marcus. Emergency family meeting, my place, 2 p.m., bring wine. I texted back immediately, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, just need to talk, and I need alcohol to do it. By the time I arrived at Marcus's loft, Darius was already there, looking as confused as I felt. Marcus was pacing, which was never a good sign. What's going on? I asked. Are you dying? Are you moving? Did you join a cult? Worse, Marcus said gravely. I got a job offer. Darius and I exchanged glances. That's the emergency? Darius asked cautiously. Not just any job offer, Marcus clarified. A real one, with benefits, and a 401k, and a dress code. I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. You're having an existential crisis because someone wants to give you health care? Don't mock my pain, Marcus grumbled. This goes against everything I stand for. I'm the chaos guy, the unpredictable one. I can't be filling out W-4 forms. The horror, Darius deadpanned. What's the job? Creative director at an ad agency, Marcus admitted. They like my unique perspective. Take the job, I told Marcus. Being responsible for some things doesn't mean you have to change who you are. The emergency family meeting dissolved into dinner, which dissolved into the three of us sprawled across Marcus's living room, debating the merits of responsibility versus spontaneity until dawn. That was our new normal. Messy, complicated, but somehow working better than any of our previous arrangements. Life has a funny way of coming full circle. It happened 9 months into our unconventional arrangement. We were all at my apartment. I was opening a bottle of wine when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find a gorgeous woman I'd never seen before. I'm looking for Marcus, she said, her voice carrying a slight accent. Is he here? Before I could answer, Marcus appeared behind me, his face draining of color. Elena, he said, sounding like he'd seen a ghost. What are you doing here? We used to date, Elena supplied helpfully, until he disappeared 3 years ago without a word. How did you find me? Marcus asked as Elena swept into the apartment. Your mother, she said simply. She always liked me better than you. I'm the woman Marcus was engaged to before he vanished, Elena announced, dropping the bombshell with the casualness of someone commenting on the weather. The silence that followed was so complete you could hear a pin drop. Or in this case, the sound of my wine glass hitting the floor and shattering. Engaged? Darius and I echoed in perfect unison. I couldn't help it. I started laughing. The situation was so absurd, so perfectly karmic, that laughter was the only possible response. "I'm sorry," I gasped through my giggles. "It's just, Marcus disappeared on you, and now here you are, appearing out of nowhere to turn his life upside down. It's poetic justice." "Elena," Marcus finally found his voice. "What do you want? Why are you here?" She fixed him with a stare that would have melted steel. "Closure. And my grandmother's ring, which you took when you left." "I didn't steal it," Marcus protested. "It was an engagement ring. I bought it." "With my money," Elena interjected. "From my grandmother. It was supposed to stay in the family." I don't have the ring anymore," Marcus admitted. "What do you mean you don't have it?" "I sold it," he confessed. "After I left, I needed the money to start over." "You sold my grandmother's 200-year-old sapphire ring?" I decided intervention was necessary before blood was shed. "Okay, everyone, let's take a breath. Elena, would you like some wine? We were just about to have dinner." And that's how we ended up having the most awkward dinner party in the history of awkward dinner parties. By the end of the night, Elena had extracted a promise from Marcus to repay the value of the ring, plus interest. She also, surprisingly, seemed to have developed a bemused respect for our unusual arrangement. "You know," she said to me as she was leaving, "I came here expecting to find Marcus alone and miserable. I wanted him to be suffering without me. But seeing him like this, actually happy, actually committed in his own way, it's better closure than I could have hoped for." After she left, the three of us sat in stunned silence. "So," Darius finally said, "engaged, huh?" Marcus groaned, burying his face in his hands. "Can we not?" "Oh, we absolutely can," I said, grinning wickedly. "I think this calls for another emergency family meeting, with more wine." "I hate you both," Marcus mumbled, but without heat. "No, you don't," Darius replied. "You're just experiencing the karmic retribution of having your past catch up with you." "Welcome to the club," I added, raising my glass in a toast. "It's not fun, is it?" 1 year later, we held a commitment ceremony in the rooftop garden of our new apartment building, the one I once told Marcus no one uses. As I walked toward them, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The lies, the betrayals, the moment the game flipped and karma kicked in the door. How something that started so wrong had somehow, against all odds, turned into something right. I caught Tasha's eye in the front row. She mouthed, "The universe has a sick sense of humor," and I had to stifle a laugh. Because she was right. But sometimes that sense of humor leads you exactly where you need to be, even if it's the last place you ever expected to find yourself. You ever think you're in control, playing the game, making the moves, until the game flips on you? Yeah, that happens.